shows you a little bit more about our campus, because obviously in an ideal world, we'd like to host you on our campus so that you can get more of a sense of the vibe of the biscuit mill where we're located in Woodstock in Cape Town. But as we can't be there today, I'm just going to show you some video footage of our campus, of students interacting and being in class and being in and around campus, just to give you a little sense of what it's like being at the biscuit mill. And then with that being said, I'd also like to extend an invitation to any of you that would like to visit us in person so that you can actually feel what the environment feels like. You're more than welcome to make an appointment with Rob and to pop in and to see what campus life is like. Obviously, as with most other institutions and probably with your schools as well, this year was very different to any other year we've had before due to this lockdown we've experienced due to the COVID pandemic. So for the last year, we've really been doing most of our learning and teaching online. But in normal circumstances, all of our learning happens on campus in the classroom. So it's quite a nice, vibey experience where one gets to be social with other like-minded people while you're learning from amazing lecturers how to start developing your career as a creative professional. So in this session, I'm also going to be welcoming Desiree Barnard to join me. She's one of our permanent lecturers in a subject called contextual studies. And I'm also later going to invite in Robin Geyser, who's one of our third-year communication design students, to just from their perspective also give you a bit of insight about their experience within the academy. But before we get there, I'd like to just give you some background on who we are as a school. So within the kind of tumultuous economic landscape that we are living in currently, especially in the aftermath of the COVID lockdown, there's a lot of questions on everyone's mind in terms of building a kind of economically sustainable future for themselves in these times that have been so hard hit by all the events of this year. And what's very exciting for us is that the creative industries are really industries that have throughout the last few decades shown more and more growth and more integration into the way that the world views commerce and business in general. So the Creative Academy is a space that really centers its attention on assisting young individuals in kind of developing their career path as a young creative professional. So we work across multiple disciplines so as to assist students in identifying what they see as their craft for their future. So we offer 4 different registered and accredited degrees. So being registered and accredited basically just means that these degrees are offered on the same level as university bachelor's programs. They have been approved by the national regulators, which is a kind of stamp of approval in terms of the quality of education that we offer. But as Rob mentioned earlier, we are continuously revising and refining what we offer in terms of our curriculum to ensure that we offer what's most up to date and most relevant to these sectors, which is really a great benefit of enrolling at an independent institution like our own, in that we have much more agility and flexibility in terms of how we can adapt and change what we do in accordance with the times. Whereas at larger university structures, these changes often take a much longer time due to the sheer scale of these institutions. So we like to think of ourselves as almost like a mischievous masked bandit, kind of working in the world and finding our best ways of problem solving and kind of adjusting to the reality around us, which, as you all know, is super important in the 21st century. So the programs that we offer, there are 4 different bachelor degrees, and all 4 of them are 3 years in length. And I'm going to speak about them in 2 different categories. So the first category is the design-centered programs, communication design, interaction design, and motion design. So these 3 specifically catered towards helping students finding an entry point into the design profession. You'll hear more detail about what all 3 of these degrees entail as we move throughout the day. But what I'd like to just introduce to you now is the idea that these the way that we offer these degrees, these design degrees, is by use of a shared foundation year. So many young creatives, specifically if you're coming directly out of school, realize that they have a kind of passion for creative thinking and practice, and they identify the creative industries as a potential space for them in which to build their careers. However, there's so many new disciplines and new practices emerging on a continuous basis that it's quite hard to identify exactly where you want to see yourself in the future. So we respond to this by offering this foundation year where students get introduced into the kind of guiding principles of communication design, motion design, and interaction design, so as to give you a broad skills base in terms of what the design industry entails. This helps you then to make a more informed decision when moving on to your second year of study, in to help you decide which one of these specific programs you want to specialize in. So that's the kind of design side of the school. Then the contemporary art department runs somewhat parallel to this in that it's a degree that's fully kind of independent and standing on its own. And what this degree does, and I'm going to speak to you about this in a little bit later today, but what this degree does is it critically looks at the contemporary art world and helps students identify potential for themselves to craft careers as either artists or writers or researchers or curators, or working on the business side of art as kind of gallery assistants or gallery owners, or even working within the secondary art market in terms of working with auction houses and so forth. So these are the two main streams that we offer. The one looking very much towards the latest and most exciting developments in the design world, and the other aspect looking at what is the most exciting developments in contemporary art. And as I said at the start, what's really great is that within all these industries, we're seeing significant growth. And obviously growth always comes with an amount of growth pains. But as I said, we are a very agile institution that finds ways in identifying where are the best avenues for students to explore if they want to enter the job market as the first step in terms of building a sustainable career path. So those are the kind of practical concerns or the practical disciplines that we engage with. But then central to this, we look at you as a student, not only as a creative practitioner, but also as a kind of fully fledged critical thinking citizen of the world, which is why all of our degree programs are structured around a kind of core central program that's called contextual studies. And within this subject, we really look at how do we as individuals in this highly complex world gain an understanding of the context surrounding us. So this is where I'm going to ask Desiree to pop on camera, as she is one of our contextual studies lecturer, and maybe just to give us an introduction as to what contextual studies is and how it sits as a kind of foundation to a lot of our programs.
Okay, thanks, Francois. Hi, everyone. As Francois said, I'm Desiree. I'm one of the contextual studies lecturers. I think a lot of students don't necessarily realize the importance of thinking critically about the world around us. So this is what we try and couch everything in contextual studies in critical thinking capabilities for where are we now, 21st century. It's proving really interesting now with COVID and looking at ways that we've been teaching and looking at how students are interacting with the world around them. So we've like Francois said, we're very agile, that we can change from day to day what it is that we're teaching. So we're very lucky that we're able to do that now. Contextual studies sort of, when you go to a traditional university, you have, with your BA, you have electives of like English and philosophy and all of those cool like subjects. So we try and take all of those and smush them into one. And yeah, it informs everybody's practice, and their practice informs what they're learning in contextual studies. It is very theory-based. You guys write essays, you do research, but it's always very fun stuff. So in the first year, you guys deal a lot with modernism and postmodernism. In the second year, we deal with Marxism, and we deal with psychoanalysis and gender studies and decoloniality. And then in the third year, we do some deep philosophy, and then Francois does some more deep philosophy. And Larita, my colleague, the other contextual studies lecturer, does a very cool module on sort of like contemporary sort of digital world, I think is probably the easiest way to describe it. I'm probably doing her a little bit of a disservice there.
Cool, thank you, Des. Yeah, so what's important to understand is that there's a great balance in our course between what you would learn as a practitioner and what you learn as a thinker. We really look at students holistically in terms of understanding that you're not going to work one day just as someone who makes things, but you're also going to be working as someone who makes things with a critical attitude, things that solve problems in the world, things that address concerns, things that are really of value to a broader society. So the other aspect alongside with contextual studies that forms one of these backbones of the course is a program called Business Studies, which is also offered across all 4 different degrees. And it's within this course that we really look at you as a professional participant within the creative industries. And here we engage with firstly understanding what are the different nuances of the different professional environments within the industry, looking at the difference between small creative studios and big advertising agencies, digital product development houses, small galleries, large galleries, museums. We really look at what are all the different environments in which one can be active, and then help guide students on a very individual basis in terms of identifying where specifically they could slot into the professional world. After doing this, we then look at how can one work effectively with others, because it's very seldom in today's day and age that one would work all alone by oneself. The idea of the artist as a kind of recluse living somewhere in the woods by himself, crafting these things out of sheer individual genius is really an outdated idea, and we really foster a sense of collaboration. So in the second module of business studies, we really look at what are the best ways of working with others, and what do we do when we encounter conflict, or how do we negotiate when we are of separate or different opinions. And these are all kind of invaluable skills, not just as a professional, but even just in life. From there on, we then look at what different types of jobs one might have, what type of roles might one have, what is the difference between being a freelancer and being permanently employed, what is the difference between being an employee and being an owner of a business, as many of you might have ambitions to one day start your own agency or your own studio, and how would one go about that, and what are the competencies required to do so successfully. And then we also look at money, because money is part of everything that we do, really. So we look at how can one effectively manage your money? How can you use accounting techniques to keep track of your spending and your income? What do you need to have in place in order to report effectively for your tax return? These are all things that are of vital importance for anyone in the world, irrespective of which industry you end up working in. Furthermore, we also look at legal implications. How does one create a valid contract? What do you need to look out for in an employment contract or in a lease agreement if you're going to be renting a space to work from, or even a space to live in? And then we also look at how does one go about protecting your intellectual property. If you are very innovative in coming up with an original kind of design for a product, how might one go about applying to have patent rights over that product? How can one register a unique kind of design so that you can make a kind of passive income by licensing that design out to someone else? So these are all kind of business focused investigations that we go through, but they're all very pertinent to the creative industry in and of itself. And for way too long, we've been told that creative people are not business people. And we completely debunk that myth in showing our students that they very well have the capabilities and capacities to look at themselves as professionals, making a real difference in the world, and also making a real career for themselves. So these are the kind of 3 arms around which the course functions. There's the practical side, where you specialize in one of the 4 disciplines. There's the contextual study side, which is philosophy, sociology, cultural studies, all of these kind of critical thinking models that help us make sense of the world. And then there's the business aspect. And one part of the business aspect that I haven't mentioned yet is the internship program, that students are also compelled to do an internship during the duration of their studies. And this gives you the opportunity to see what it is like working in the real world before entering it, so that by the time that you graduate, that shift from being a student to being a professional is not as scary. So in a nutshell, that's really what our programs are about. All of these programs will be discussed in much more detail in the individual sessions to follow today. So please log on to those as well so that you can get more of the juicy details. But what I'd just like to mention now still is the presenters you'll see today. You'll realize that these are like very high class professionals, real legends in what they do. And that's the case with all our lecturers. We really work with lecturers that are most of our lecturers are professional practitioners in their own rights and either run their own businesses or work part-time with other kind of business partners in doing something active in the industry, or they're practicing artists. So the information that you gain from your lecturers is not just on a kind of cold theoretical basis. It really comes from the forefront of working in the industry. So before going on to the more detailed explanations of the different programs, I'd like to just quickly introduce Robin to you. As I said, Robin is one of our third year communication design students who will be graduating at the end of this year. And she's been working as an intern in our own marketing department recently. And I'd like to ask her if she could introduce a very exciting project that we're working on for the first Thursdays in November, where we'll be hosting an exhibition of some of our student works. Robin, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Francois. I've been working alongside some other students in third year as well, with the marketing department of the CTCA to create a very fun First Thursdays exhibition. So the exhibition is for the second year photography students, and it'll take place in a First Thursdays format at the CTCA, and it's really exciting, really like interactive, a really cool project.
Yeah, so the exhibition is entitled The Silence is Not Empty as I Thought. And the reason for this is that this exhibition really deals with the strangeness of lockdown. So the images that will be displayed are all photographic projects that were created during the initial stage of lockdown, where we were really kind of limited to only working within our home environments, which was quite a challenge for students who are used to having access to a photography studio where they get to shoot the images with professional lighting and normally get models and makeup artists and amazing clothing, and we put amazing, beautiful editorial or fashion images together. And during lockdown, there was really a challenge to document the strangeness of this time. Excuse me. I'm fine. Yeah, so it's a very exciting event. We're going to show you just now. Let me show you the invitation for that, so that you can actually put it in your diary and remember to join us for when that takes place on the 5th of November.
Yeah, I think it's also a very cool opportunity for everybody to come and see the campus, because Francois, like you don't really get a sense of the vibe. I mean, this video is beautiful, but if you haven't been there, you don't really, feel the I don't know. There's a word. I don't know what it is.
No, there's an essence, or there's something great about being in a place where you're being with others that have the same kind of passions as you do. And I think that's often for people coming directly from school as a first year student into the Creative Academy, that's often one of the biggest enjoyments, is the fact that you've been in school and there's like nice people, but there's also like loads of people that you just don't get. They're like a bit weird and a bit odd, and even some of the teachers are a bit kooky. And then you get the opportunity to be in an environment like this where you're surrounded with individuals that share the same kind of passions and interests as you do, which gives you the freedom to really just be yourself and to kind of express yourself in the most authentic way possible.
So you're still going to get weird and kooky teachers, like that happens.
But only in the best way. Okay, so that is a kind of general introduction to what it is that we do.
Ooh, Francois, your mic went off. Ooh. No, it says that you're muted. No, well, you can do a little bit of an interpretive dance.
Sorry, there was something strange happened to my earphones, which then turned off my microphone. So please log on for the individual sessions and you'll get a lot more detail about each program, and we'll also be afforded the opportunity to ask any pertinent questions that you might have. And then at the end of the day, Rob and Chris will be online if you have any questions about specifically about the application process, how to apply, what you need to submit when you apply, all of those kind of questions that can get you on the fast track to your life at the Creative Academy.